Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Intercentia. It's part of a series of books on European law published by this company based in Cambridge and in Belgium. Now, the book I'm looking at this morning, very important for family law practitioners here, Divided Parents, Shared Children. Now, the words that are used sometimes are slightly different from what we're used to say in the English courts, but it's the same thing. Residence orders, shared residence orders, co-parenting, whatever you want to call it, that's what this is actually about, this book here. It's got a subtitle, Legal Aspects of Residential Co-parenting in England, the Netherlands and Belgium. And it's been written by Natalie Nicolina. As I said, it's published by Intercentia. Elizabeth and I looked at the book and we've given for our book review title the following: some pointers on how to co-parent in modern society in the 21st century, because that's what you're getting. Let's have a look at the book first of all. It's a paperback in a series. This is number 39 in the series. I've reviewed other books in the series. You can see the front cover there, then you've got the spine, then you've got the back. And I've taken a little bit from the back to put in the book review so that you have some idea of what the contents are. Now, the European Family Law series is listed right at the back of the book. There's a short... in fact, there's no index on this occasion. There's no actual index, which is unfortunate. I do like to have indexes, but we'll get onto that in a minute. There's details about the author are actually at the back. Let's go to the front of the book, because there is the actual information, the front cover, and the details about some of the books in the series. Some of these books do have indexes and some don't. The indexes are actually quite sparse, I have to say, if they do exist. That's a detail about the book. Then there are acknowledgements, and moving on from that, from Natalie. The acknowledgements are dated July 2015, so this book is a little bit older. Then you've got the contents section, so you should be able to find what you're looking for quite quickly. You can see the structure there. And then right at the end, you've got conclusions and recommendations at the back, with references and various other information right at the back. And some of it, of course, is actually written in another language, Dutch in this case. Now, what I'm going to show you, apart from that, is the structure of the book itself. There is the book. You see there is paragraph numbering, and there's also footnoting. Just about to sneeze then. You can see the paragraph numbering going through the book, and then you can see the International European Framework, which is how the book starts off. And again, as I say, you have quite a large, very detailed amount of information. It's another very good book in the series, and I think anybody involved in family law matters involving certain contact orders, as we call them, child arrangement orders, the way that we deal with prohibited steps orders, residence orders, shared or otherwise, and so forth. This is a book, I think, of more general application. I think also quite a lot of people should read it who are advisors, such as CAFCAS officials and so forth. Realize that they are busy people, but we all are. But I think that this book would be of assistance. So what do we say about it? Well, Natalie Nicolina writes that worldwide there's been much discussion on the ways of parenting after parental separation, especially on the desirability for the children involved of equally shared care or co-parenting, and the feasibility of legal arrangements in which the children alternate their residence between their parents' separate homes, which is called residential co-parenting. As far as the book is concerned, we of course they're called residence orders, and there can be shared residence orders. But again, it's the same meaning. It's just have slightly different words to describe it. Many of us, of course, have been involved as practitioners here and in other countries such as Holland and Belgium, dealing with the intricacies and emotional problems concerning child arrangements. And this particular title, I think, is an important point of reference for lawyers and advisors dealing with these matters, and it gives some refreshing new insights, which is one of the reasons why I think this book is useful for anybody at the family law bar, and also anybody involved in this type of case, if you have time to read it, because it will give you an extra little bit of ammunition about the sort of problems you may be faced. So obviously, if you've been involved, as I have, for many years in these types of conflicted arrangements, you'll be well aware of the main issues that crop up. But I do think any new book on this subject is always worth certainly a good look. Much is unclear, of course, about how residential co-parenting affects children. Remember, always Section 1 of the Children Act, which applies to us here, paramount importance of the children being in the main mission. And therefore how legislators and practitioners, because of what we have as a requirement, how these people should deal with this form of arrangement, which we commonly call here contact orders. I know it's changed to child arrangement orders, but it's still the same thing in terms of the way in which we look at how, when the family unit is split, what is going to happen with the children. So what Divided Parents and Shared Children, the book, does is to seek to answer questions to gain some understanding of the phenomenon of co-parenting, which is on the increase, and to provide the legislator, that's the politicians, and of course that's the judiciary, and the parents with some possible solutions. Now, of course, in addition to that, you have, certainly in this country, a very large number of couples now who are not married. Not that that has really any bearing, effectively, although to some, funnily enough, it can do, because there could be cultural issues. But we put that to one side. The solutions, of course, which are in the book, range from what kind of legal framework does or should exist in England and Wales, in Netherlands or Belgium, with regard to residential co-parenting, and what can each country learn from each other's legal systems for the future. That, of course, has always been, I think, a benefit, so that we've got some idea in a more global world about how we address the issues and the problems. It's one of the sadnesses for me that we might be leaving the EU, because I do think that there are also benefits. We can gain knowledge from how other people do things, and we can also tell other people how we approach a problem, which I'm sure will hopefully be of benefit to them. And of course, one substantive question which arises in the book is, does residential co-parenting occur in the countries discussed, and if so, how predominant is it? Now, that's an important point to bear in mind, because at the end of the day, if you remember the basic principle again, and that is that both parents should be involved in the upbringing of their children. Now, that's a sensible, logical way of looking at it. It doesn't always happen, it can't in some circumstances, but you can see that that is a sensible, I suggest, a sensible policy the judiciary should adopt. Now, Nicolina also poses this point. Should these jurisdictions encourage or discourage residential co-parenting through legal action? Well, when you don't get an agreement, that's what happens. It's inevitable, I'm afraid. I don't like it. I prefer to have this taken out of the court system completely. And I'm sure a lot of other people do too. I'm afraid that's where we are at the moment. What she concludes, that's Nicolina concludes, beginning is that the law cannot operate in a vacuum, so she's included most useful demographic and sociological data to perform her task. The reason I'm saying that is because at the end of the day, and it doesn't really matter what you're doing if you think about it, if you cannot get an agreement from warring parties, it doesn't matter what the issues are, there's only one way to go, and that's to a tribunal. In other words, a court where someone will impose something which in fact the parties won't like, but it's going to have to be imposed on them because there can't be any agreement. It's far better to have a judgment by consent, if you can get it, and then of course they breach it. But that's another day and another book. Now, to answer the questions that have been posed in the book, it uses not only legal data from both empirical and literate, or rather literary, literature research, I'll get it right in a minute, but also sociological, psychological and demographic studies into residential arrangements and their effect on children, which we certainly believe will be of great assistance to professional advisors. Because I do think, again, one should always have in mind what the effect on the children is, because we do try to do that, but not always. And I think there can be a problem sometimes of not getting the balance right. But this title, anyway, the title of this book is part of the series of books which are dedicated to the harmonisation, unification of family and succession law in Europe. And it's actually coming at such an important time for us within the member states of the European Union, obviously at a time of Brexit. Read has also given a high quality insight into comparative legal studies and materials from these works by Intersentia, who are actually foremost in this particular field of research, and it's useful to have these books available and to know of their existence. And in addition, scholars are given most useful advice on studies conducted on the effects of international and European lawmaking within the various national legal systems throughout Europe. And what we found most helpful, I think, for advisors here in the United Kingdom is the availability of these books, the books certainly in the series, in English, French and German, under the direction excuse me again, of the Organising Committee of the Commission on European Family Law. That's the CEFL. You'll notice the logo on the front of the book. I'd like to thank everybody very much for producing this title and the titles in the series, because they do make our professional lives, I think, a lot easier, given the important pointers they give us in the right direction. The law's stated as at 2017, as far as I know, bearing in mind these publications are a little bit older, but I'm recording this in the middle of 2017, and the book forms part of a series of European family law publications. This is volume 39, covering European law, family law, children's law and comparative law. This is the book again. Notice the little logo at the bottom. There's the spine there, and then there's the back. As I say, there isn't an index, but there is the list of all the books in the series there. They're paperbacks, small books. They run to 200 odd pages. The Belgian legal system is covered. Now, I mention this because, funny enough, in this day and age, it's quite possible, when you have a case, say in England, that you could well have other jurisdictions. It certainly happened to me. I practice in London, and it certainly happened in London, where you will get parties who married, say, in Belgium or in Holland, and there are all sorts of other issues that come into it. And of course, they have sometimes a rather different approach about how we should go forward, which is one of the reasons why I think this book is important, because it actually talks about England and Wales, but we always, I think, have to have a wider picture. It's just a sad point that we're leaving the EU. But however, there may be a silver lining with that cloud, because it may well be we'll still be getting a huge amount of exchange of views. Anyway, thank you very much to Natalie and to everybody, Tom Shears at Intersentia and everybody else, for producing another excellent book. Thank you. Bye-bye.